Hello everyone, it's Pinterest Pro Anna here again today with Facebook Live. If you looked at all the advertisements that I put out, you saw that today we have Aubrey Ducker with us. And let me turn that off. That wasn't supposed to come up there. I hate it when it does that. Anyway, Aubrey is a lawyer in Winter Park, Florida here, and I'm going to let Aubrey tell us a little bit about his background and the type of cases that he handles, the type of law that he practices.
I'm still trying to find your questions you sent me.
Don't worry about them now.
Oh, okay. Well, I consider that I practice in the area of families in crisis. We do collaborative divorce, elder law, family law, and guardianship in my office.
Okay, good. And could you tell us, if somebody said, why should I hire you, Aubrey, what would you tell them?
I don't know, honestly.
What sets you apart? What?
I'd tell them to ask you.
But what sets you apart from other lawyers?
Well, again, that's a kind of difficult question. I don't like to brag. I think what really sets me apart from most other lawyers, I think, is I have a compassion for helping people. I tend to work harder in family situations, trying to preserve relationships and trying to help relationships than a lot of attorneys.
Yeah, and I agree with that because I've used you for some things and I know that. And I noticed on your website when I was looking at it, it talks about the fact that you use the collaborative divorce process.
Video. So. That was my paralegal just stopping in to
say hello. That's okay. As I was saying, I noticed on your website it says that you use the collaborative divorce process.
I do.
And could you tell us what that is, how it's different from maybe what some of the other lawyers out there do?
Oh, well, a collaborative process, there's a collaborative family law of Central Florida, CFL-CFL.com. Probably the best way to describe it is there are about 100,000 attorneys in Florida. There are probably 1,000 attorneys that practice in family law in the Orlando greater metropolitan area. And in the collaborative group, there are about 50 attorneys that practice family law. So, first of all, it's a smaller group of attorneys. The training for collaborative is more of a conciliatory process where families work together to make their decisions, to make decisions about their family rather than leaving those decisions to judge or more to argument. In Central Florida area, we work with a mental health counselor called a facilitator in each case. I usually have a neutral financial advisor in each case, and that serves to help the clients, the two people who are divorcing, to have all the information they need to make their own best decisions.
So that's something that sets you apart right there. Because like you said, it's a smaller group of lawyers that actually use that process. Now, did you have to do some type of special training for that?
Yes, there was several years ago I attended a collaborative seminar to be trained in the practice, and I attend probably 12 to 20 hours of collaborative training each year in various meetings of our group. meetings with the state, Florida Academy of Collaborative Professionals, the FACP. We have a training session each year that encompasses probably 12 to 16 hours of training. Our local group meets monthly or semi-monthly or bi-monthly for training purposes. It's a higher level, certainly, than most practitioners would receive.
Yeah, that's interesting. And yesterday when we were talking, as I said to you, a lot of people, because not everybody gets a divorce every day, and not everybody needs a lawyer every day. So,
well, unfortunately,
yeah, for you. But when they're looking at hiring someone, they don't know that lawyers may have different sets of skills. And so to ask those kinds of questions, do you do the collaborative process? It's very helpful to people. So I think that's something interesting for my followers to know, not just for a divorce, but for any type of legal matters as far as a family is concerned. And all, because as we say, we don't know what we don't know, and so it's good to have the additional information.
And let me interrupt you just right there.
Okay.
Collaborative practice is moving into more civil areas of practice, litigation, those types of disputes, and I've been using a collaborative model in the practice of elder law for several years. Mm-hmm. And those are areas that there's not a specific statute. Thankfully, the state of Florida last year passed the collaborative statute, mm-hmm. and it was able to be implemented. So there's a statute on the books for collaborative law specific to the divorce process and family law. Mm-hmm. But we can use that in other areas of law by agreement of the parties. And it really does change the dynamic of those mm-hmm. other practice areas, especially in probate and guardianship matters.
Yeah, I could see where it would. So that's great. That's awesome. And again, like I said before, that's something good for people to know, to ask those kinds of questions. What would you say for someone that, say, is looking for, let's talk a little bit about the elder law, someone that, say has aging parents, what would you say to them would be the top 3 tips you would give them in looking for a lawyer to handle things for them?
The top 3 tips for finding a lawyer?
For elder care.
For elder care. Well, first of all, you need a lawyer who's been trained or who has an elder care practice. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of attorneys. Is your dog barking?
I was just about to say, it never fails that somebody rings my doorbell or the lawn service comes, You
want to go?
Hold on a minute. Let me close this door, and that will help.
Oh, okay. Well, to talk about how to find an attorney in any practice of law, the best way to find an attorney is to talk with people that you know who've used an attorney.
But what would be, say, 3 questions that you would recommend that someone ask someone if, say, I have aging parents and I'm trying to get everything in order as far as guardianship, the power of attorney, all those sorts of things. What would you say would be the top 3 questions they should ask a lawyer that they're interviewing?
Oh, 3 questions. This is why you should have sent me these questions ahead of time.
I did. You just didn't look at them.
Top 3 questions. No, and I'm looking through my email. I don't see them here. 3 questions to ask an attorney. I would say ask the attorney what they see as important in a representation, what their concerns are with regard to the representation and how they handle conflict that comes up. Because, that can be very instructive, first of all. When an attorney has a conflict in their own life, what they do, helps you understand how they're going to handle your problems.
That's a good point. Yeah.
If an attorney is not able to answer your questions directly, if they have to hedge and give you roundabout answers to your questions, that can be a concern, because many times there really is a simple answer. And if the attorney gives you the simple answer, they may feel like they're losing your business, or they won't seem like the expert. But simple answers are sometimes more important than the more involved legal problems.
Yeah.
I had someone recently ask me a question about, he was on the deed to a house, and he asked if, he could tell people they couldn't come in his house. I said, well, yeah, it's pretty simple. It's your house. You tell them to leave, and you call the police and issue a trespass warrant. He thought that was, for some reason, a very complex, it should have been a more complex answer. Mm-hmm. And I was, pretty happy to say, no, it's a much more simple question than maybe he was anticipating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I always tell people that for me, what I learned is that the reason for a lawyer is it does let you know what you can and can't do, and it takes away that fear factor of, what can I do here, and not really being sure, and people can take advantage of that. So I know I learned my lesson with that. With your law practice, because some people may think, lawyers, how would they use social media? Do you use social media with your law firm?
I actually do quite a bit with Facebook and posting. My office has a Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And whenever I write a blog, I try to optimize it and post it on Facebook as well. I use that as purely an advertising and informational setting for people. Certainly they shouldn't depend on legal advice that they get from a blog, but they really should consult the attorney directly or consult an attorney. Sometimes in a blog, when I'm writing, I'm talking about a very specific case or a very specific problem that may or may not translate really well to others' situations.
Yeah. Okay, but that's good that you do that, and I think that a lot of people as far as law is concerned, they're kind of afraid to get out there on social media. So that's good. And writing blogs is wonderful because you do help to share your expertise and to inform people because people need that information. Do you use Pinterest?
No, I have this friend who has always promised to get me on Pinterest, and I couldn't. To be blunt, I saw people doing their Pinterest boards for their weddings and for their craft things, and I did not see divorce as a real Pinterest board type thing.
I'm telling you, it's there.
Well,
hey, not only that, think about it. If they're planning a wedding, they might need a divorce lawyer.
Well, I was this past weekend. I was at the beach and saw some people doing a wedding at the beach, And somebody said, don't go give them your card. And I said, well, they might need it. They're getting married.
That's right.
Others didn't find the humor in that quite the way I did.
You never know. You never know. 1 out of 2 ends in divorce, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, well, we will have to get you on Pinterest, especially because you blog, and those would be great to be out there on Pinterest. And, you know, people do look for information. They do research for information on Pinterest. It's very much like Google. So we need to get you on there. Is there anything else you would like to add today before we sign off?
Gosh, I don't know. I would love... How long is this interview supposed to last? I thought we were going 2 or 3 hours.
No, we're almost finished here.
Oh, okay. I would just add that it is very important for people to understand what their attorney's doing. Sometimes we have an information society, and people can go online and search on Google and look on Wikipedia and learn a lot about specific things, and especially areas of law. But there's a great mug that says, don't confuse your Google search with my law degree. and I think it's important for people to realize that. In the practice of family law and divorce, the statutes, we've got a statute book that's, let's see, a couple inches thick, statute book. But when I'm advocating for a client or when I'm counseling with a client, what's more important than those statutes is their own personal experience with their spouse. And to be blunt, my experience in the courtroom and my knowledge of what judges are likely to do, because there are statutes, and I've had people say, well, the law says they have to do this. And I say, well, yeah, that's true. The law does say that. But before you can get that enforced, you could lose everything. Mm-hmm. And, I was recently involved in a case where a woman received a judgment in excess of $100,000. And because of her own attorney's mistakes in enforcing that judgment, she still hasn't been paid. It's been almost 2 years, and she hasn't been paid. She came to me and says, well, why can't we force him to pay us the money? And I said, well, because he moved it from one bank to another, mm-hmm. and you can't get your hands on it now. We've got to track down where it is before we can find it. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, we have been able to locate where the money was transferred, and we got an order of the court to seize that asset, to freeze prevent the bank from allowing further transfers or further dissipation of that, and the court ordered for our fees to be paid. But that's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah. But you have to be careful about those things. And again, those are the kinds of things where the lawyer knows how to handle it. You want to make sure you have the right lawyer that knows how to go about correcting those types of things. Well, thank you so much for being with me today, Aubrey. I appreciate it. And I will put your website in the comment section on my Facebook page here, so that if someone has a question or needs a divorce, or they have elderly parents out there, which a lot of us, a lot of people do nowadays, because we're those baby boomers, and all, they can get in touch with you. And
well, thank you.
Thank you. And so now this is Pinterest Pro Anna traveling on down the Pinterest Superhighway, and I will see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. So make sure that you join me at 7 p.m. tomorrow.